Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago, and wherever you are watching us from the world. It is Monday, the 8th of June. Welcome to Pep Talks in the Morning. My name is Felicia Holder, Chairman of the Progressive Empowerment Party, and your host of this program every Monday to Friday from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. We haven't moved that time yet, still assessing what the viewership is like during these very strange times. We're staggering the return to work for some people. Some are still at home, but we will see how the program continues to run. Welcoming to the program this morning is a very known regular face on Pep Talks in the Morning, Michelle Davis, our deputy party organizer for the Progressive Empowerment Party. Good morning, Michelle.
Good morning, Felicia. Good morning. Welcome back.
Thank you. And I have to say, as you say, welcome back. Thank you very much to you and Hadassah for holding down the fort on Friday. I heard that it was a very great show. I myself have not yet gotten to watch it. I have that and about 5 episodes of Plain Talk on my YouTube queue right now, waiting for the moment that I can just get some time to sit down. But I heard you ladies represented us really well, and I thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Felicia. It was our pleasure. We could never replace you, but we tried our best. It was a great show, short and sweet. We could only go for an hour due to, as you know, conflict in scheduling, but it was a great privilege. Thank you.
Most welcome. And Michelle, I see that you have resumed walkabouts in South. Congratulations on that. Y'all have hit the ground. Well, I can't even say hit the ground. Y'all have been flying through San Fernando from what I have seen in the videos and pictures. How's that been going?
Yes, actually, my legs are still sore. My calves are killing me from that walk. The amount of hills from those in South, we walked San Fernando East and West. We covered approximately 5 to 6 polling districts. The hills were incredible. My calves are still sore, but it was a great privilege meeting everyone, speaking to people, just getting back on the ground. And just touching base with the people and the citizens and what they think. I believe the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago are ready for change.
Most definitely. And we have change that they have been waiting for. What was the response so far to PP, to those that you would have encountered on the walk?
Many were familiar with PEP, so we have definitely made a significant progress
Yeah.
in the public recognizing us. We had two groups, so which was even much more effective in bringing visibilities. Cars were passing. We were stopped by a police. It was great because he just stopped to ask us for a pep flyer. We thought we were
I
getting in
saw
trouble,
that.
but I froze at that moment because we were interchanging information, and he just wanted a pep folder. So the public is awake. It was great reception, deep conversations, which we appreciate the public asking us. We want the public to ask us good questions. We are not coming with, oh, just vote for us. We are actually explaining our policies and where PEP stands on every issue facing this country. So I think it's very enlightening when citizens encounter us and our team is able to explain in detail what we are going to do instead of empty promises, Felicia, that we've heard for 57 years and nothing comes through.
Indeed, and we have some of those empty promises in a little bit on the program, but something I just wanted to add, Michelle, to what you said when I asked you what was the response like, and you said that people had known about the PEP. I don't think, or I think we ourselves here within the party underestimate the very short time in which we had to spread the message of the Progressive Empowerment Party, and seeing the evolution of our message from 2017 when we were virtually
Yes.
unknown. 2018, it has always been an uphill climb because we've never had the privilege of mainstream media. When we are covered, it was usually in a negative light, and it made the journey all the more challenging, but I think for me all the more rewarding, because hearing you say what I had anticipated, which is that at this point people, at least they are aware that the Progressive Empowerment
Yes.
Party is around. And it's just for us now to take that awareness and convert it into votes. And I don't think it's going to be hard because just this lineup, the weekend wrap up alone that we're about to discuss, if by this weekend wrap up Trinbagonians aren't aware or alert to the fact that this government and the government before this government did not and does not have their interests in mind, that they're going to come election time to repackage the same ideas, probably steal one or two from the PAP, but still missing the core and fundamental values behind all of our policies which make them work, which is rebuilding the home, the community, and the nation. I've seen Kamala Persad trying to sound like Pep,
Yes.
and she's still missing that core thing that makes our policies work. And another thing that she's missing is a lack of political will because, again, if she had it, she would have done it between 2010 and 2015, not so?
Exactly. And Felicia, what else also, being in charge of mobilization, what is really, I have noticed in the past several weeks, citizens are actually reaching out to us to walk the ground with us. And that is just, you know the struggles we've gone through. So, if you
Yeah.
are interested, I just want to say that I've been getting inundated with calls, messages, texts of persons that want to actually walk the ground with us. So we are so appreciative of where we have reached with the public and that the citizens are now woke. They're now woke to what we stand for and they're ready to stand with us in this journey of changing Trinidad.
Indeed, actually, my first book about when the COVID-19 restrictions were lifted, Michelle, were from two complete strangers right here in Belmont. I remember always thinking,
Mhm.
were Lima and I the only two peppers in Belmont? And was I wrong? Because there are so many of them apparently who have been tuned in to the PP, and especially during COVID-19, something about that period, I
Yes.
think, caused people to probably pull closer together. You didn't have a choice because your community was all you had at that point in time. For some people, they never left their communities during this COVID-19 period. You would go to the local supermarket and back. And through that experience, I actually met and had several people from Belmont, from Port of Spain, North Cascade area reach out to me. And like I say, the response is very positive. Seeing the response on your sign, Michelle, it's very positive. I saw Lima had a walkabout. It looked very positive. Alberta
Yes.
Stacey had her walkabout. It looks very positive. I see Akil driving around with his my car and Michelle's um and sorry, Michelle with him again looking very positive. And of course, practicing social distancing and of course still spreading the message of the PP that so many people right now are more receptive, I have to say, to receiving.
Agreed 100%. It's really just been a 360-degree change in what we are experiencing on the ground. And I wanted to give you a little personal note. One of our new caretakers, she indicated that because of watching Pep Talks in the morning, it really brought home her desire to help us. She mentioned you, Felicia, in the interview. She mentioned that she watched us during this COVID-19 pandemic and said, you know what, I want to come on board. And she's now on board, a new caretaker, and she's just started. But she said one of the reasons is she was home and she was been watching the show. And what we've been bringing to the attention of the nation makes sense. And, I believe that is the trend with a lot of citizens the past 3 months. They've really been watching the show and they realize we're bringing valid issues, valid questions. We're not just talking, because anybody can do that. We are highlighting issues and then we're saying, well, why didn't you do this? We're questioning what needs to be questioned. So Felicia, kudos to you and the show, because you have really brought to light for a lot of citizens that were home during this pandemic, the issues, and it started them thinking, which is really, really good.
Michelle, oh gosh, you have no idea how that just literally made me feel to tear, because I would not lie to you. When I believe it was the first week of COVID-19, by week 2, Philip Edward Alexander told me, then asked me, told me, you need to do a show Monday to Friday. And I mean, at the point in time, and all my excitedness and eagerness to do something during a period where we could do nothing, I was like, yeah. And I mean, I seized the opportunity. I love the idea of doing it. Some days, I'd be honest, it would felt like, is nothing making sense? Is this making sense? And hearing that feedback, and not just from her, I've actually heard it from a couple people. Two of the guys who came and did the walkabout from Belmont with me, they said they listened to Pep Talks in the morning. They've called into Pep Talks in the morning, and it really warms my heart to see the response, and nothing to do with me, but to see the response and know that people are not just listening to things for bacchanal sake. You tend to see things that carry a lot of drama and bacchanal. You tend to see a lot of views and people watching and people wanting to be a part of that. And to know that this show is drama free and bacchanal free, but yet people are tuning in for the information, tuning in for the edification, and tuning in because they simply want a better country. Like I say, it just absolutely, absolutely warms my heart because it gives me so much hope for my citizens of
Yes,
Trinidad and Tobago. You can't believe. And hope. Hope,
yes, it
hope is the
does.
foundation of the Progressive Empowerment Party. Hope is why we're here. Hope is why we haven't given up and migrated to another man's country. Hope is why we keep doing this fight despite setbacks, despite disappointments, despite people who you thought that would have been with you from start to end. Hope is what keeps us going on. And you people, you the viewers, I'm watching straight at the camera right now. You the viewers, the people who tune in to Pep Talks in the morning, thank you so much. You give me, Michelle Satish, who does this program on a morning and then in the night for Philip Alexander and Pep Talks. You give us so much encouragement, and I really, 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 and truly thank you from the bottom of my
Yes,
heart. Get all
definitely.
emotional this morning. So we finished 15 minutes of the program, but we still have topics to dive into. And it's Monday, so as you know, we have the weekend wrap up to get into, and rounding off the topics for the day. Back in March, was it March 20 or was it April? Back in April, the Prime Minister
Right.
initiated his COVID-19 22-man response team, the recovery team for COVID-19 that was supposed to give us all of the flam and all of the ideas out of all the renowned names that sat on that committee, like the Christian Mute and who's this guy who just resigned, who was chairing the committee?
Oh, wasn't
Lehan.
LaHunt on it? LaHunt, yes.
Lehan was the chairman of the committee, and of course our renowned Prime Minister himself was a part of that committee, and the other 19 or 20 who I just have no idea were. because because to date they have yet to make any real contribution to what is supposed to be a recovery plan. And I mean, very early in the game, the prime minister came out and said he did not know what to do. Basically, asked the nation to submit their ideas.
Hmm.
I never bothered to submit my ideas, but Keith Rowley, if you're still looking for some ideas, please watch the show anytime between March the 21st to date, and you can get all of the ideas of how to fix Trinidad and Tobago. But we know you can steal it, but just like your counterparts, the UNC, you can steal all you want, but once you don't have the will to implement it, we know it's not going anywhere. But the COVID-19 team has resurfaced. They have resurfaced and they have put forward their plan for the economy to recover, outlining 527. It's 527, Michelle?
Yes, yes.
527 state construction exercises. What do you call that? 527 state construction um, initiatives to the tune of $3.2 billion. And this is meant to stimulate, they say, the economy, which so far sounds like it's going to stimulate some deep pocket financiers' pockets. as well as more projects that we probably will not need for years or ever to come. Michelle, jump in.
Well, when I heard of this infamous COVID-19 recovery team, my first thought was, why do we need a team? We already have those elected in office that supposedly are expertise in their fields. We have several hundred people employed in the ministries that should be able to give constructive feedback to their ministers in terms of how to go to the road to recovery. But reading this over the weekend, Felicia, all I can think of in summary was, okay, we're just basically putting money that was lost during COVID-19 back into the pockets of the elite in Trinidad. It has nothing to do with the small man on the road. It has nothing to do with the average citizen and what they are going through. The average citizen is still awaiting 1,500 measly dollars. We keep seeing these figures, but yet social media and the public still continues to tell us they have not received anything. One or two, three, four people have come forth in an amount of 20 plus thousand applicants that supposedly have been given. So I am not too confident, Felicia, on this team. The reason being is because construction, we have seen construction is a failed initiative in Trinidad. It goes administration to administration. It is never completed. They just arbitrarily pick roads where nobody really facilitates on or drives on, and that's a project. It goes to nowhere. It does not benefit the public. What about the projects that have been budgeted for already, $6 billion or $5 billion in the Ministry of Works, that has yet to fix the roads in Trinidad and Tobago? This team has now come up with the very I want to say unique initiative of using VAT refunds as part of the recovery for the public. I don't know how you feel about that, Felicia, but I'm still questioning, what does VAT refunds have to do with COVID-19 relief and recovery? So because you have put citizens' money back into the citizens' pockets, this means that we're recovered? Is that what that means, Felicia? Because that's how I'm interpreting it.
Michelle, I am absolutely mortified and mortified is what we have to do. That is not, it is an understatement actually that our idea of COVID-19 recovery, of stimulating the economy, is more state projects via which few people get rich. There are still contractors to date waiting to be paid, and that's how it works. The government gives out these mega million, mega billion dollar contracts to project managers who then subcontract these smaller contractors. They take the majority of the money, and these smaller contractors are still waiting to be paid. Michelle, there's people still waiting for payment from the president's house renovation, from the Red House renovation. And I have to ask the question, if nearly $500 million was paid on that, and we saw the Prime Minister put out his nice list, he's a man of lists and charts and graphs and stuff. He put out his nice list. And I have to ask the question, if this is the case, if all of these people, all of this work was done, why is it to date we still have contractors still begging you for money? We have contractors, Michelle, I have this inside information for a fact, that are taking the government to court, all the way to the Privy Council if they have to get their money. And that is the reality of the way contracts are done in this country. We're talking state contracts right now, state projects to the tune of $3.2 billion. And I have to ask the question, who really is going to benefit from this, and how is this really going to benefit the larger population? And to say what you just said, that VAT refunds and income tax refunds is part of your recovery plan, how is something that is already scheduled to happen, how is something that you should have already budgeted for since the last income tax submission, how is
Mhm.
it that that is part of your recovery plan for the country, for the nation? Because I mean, many of these small businesses as you look at it right now, that same money that they're getting in VAT refunds, they're going to have to re-inject it into their business right now, which is suffering because of COVID-19. I saw an article and I think I sent it to you guys, where South businesses are lamenting the
Yes.
fact that they have literally been demolished by COVID-19. I'm seeing people sales on Facebook now that the economy is starting to restart, 50% off, 70% off. And it's not because these people just feeling to have a sale, it's because they know that life is not going to be the same, at least not for a while, under this COVID-19 period. So guess what? Yes, we're working, yes, we're back out to work, but we're still going to be eating all doing everything twice for the next couple of months to come, particularly when the government has not yet implemented anything substantial for the small to medium businesses to actually recover. VAT refunds is not a recovery plan. The loans, in the first place, those loans that you were offering to people, in my opinion, was not a recovery plan. But in addition to putting people in further debt, those loans are still not yet available. So what is really this 22-man team COVID-19 recovery plan about if it is only focused on construction, public sector construction, mind you, nothing,
Eh,
nothing there mentioning private sector, public sector construction, the same heap of bubble and mess that we knew before
mhm.
COVID-19 times $3.2 billion more.
And Felicia, it's important for the public to note of that $3.2 billion, $2 billion has been sourced from five international lending agencies for loans. So again, we continue to crawl into the debt hole that this administration is known for. Of the VAT refunds that we're speaking about, $280 million has already been refunded or supposedly refunded to businesses. I mean, while again, a measly 36 million has been refunded to the public, to the average citizen. Look at the difference of what we are talking about. And you mentioned South, and I'm from Deep South. I represent Deep South. I've been speaking for the South for 3 years now with PEP. We were dead. The South economy was dead at the closure of Petrotrin. So COVID-19 pretty much sealed the deal because I did a video last year where we walked High Street and on a Saturday. I don't know if you saw that. We walked High Street on a Saturday and literally we could count the number of people that were on High Street on a Saturday. So the South economy has been suffering. It has been suffering for a while with the closure of Petrotrin. You have San Fernando, Marabella, San Fernando East, San Fernando West, Faizabad, Siparia, all these regions were employed by Petrotrin. So our economy already was already gone because so many people, thousands and thousands of households were impacted. And now you put COVID-19 on top of it, and you basically seal the deal. Businesses are closing in South, and there has been no initiative of jobs down here since the closure of Petrotrin. So what is this government doing? We're going back into the construction project we see over and over again. Hadassah and I talked about the HDC project. We see it all over Trinidad, Felicia. HDC homes that are never completed, projects that are never completed, but yet we continue to go into this construction because it benefits the few and not the majority. So to me, this plan is not effective. I do not see how it's going to impact the average man that is really struggling to survive in this nation.
You mentioned HGC homes, which think about schools. What about the schools that were started and never completed, started under one administration and then abandoned? And you mentioned the HGC homes, and I immediately thought about the towers in Chaguanas. That those two
Yes,
abominations that stand like a haunted reminder of
yes,
what past governments have done to us, and the money that is still spent to date guarding those two empty haunted shells that again haunts the memories and haunts the history books of what should be failure and reminiscent of failures of Trinidad and Tobago. And I think I was thinking about the actual 22-man COVID-19 recovery team. And I think we should change the name to the VAT recovery team because it seems so far, in terms of the plans and initiatives that are being rolled out, it seems like this was just meant to accelerate VAT payments and never let a good crisis go to waste. This government probably went on their knees and said, "Thank you, Jesus, for sending us this COVID 19, which allowed us to take 117 cases and spend $6 billion. 117 cases, Michelle, we haven't even touched the surface of what some countries
Exactly.
have faced with their COVID 19, and that it is costing this country so much money. It is unbelievable. And unbelievable is an understatement.
Felicia, it's just jaw dropping because we have heard figures as
Jaw
much as
dropping,
$20
yeah.
billion. $20 billion for those that are watching the show, allotted for this COVID 19 for a measly 117 cases. Felicia and I highlighted of that $220 billion, that figure, we can only 55 million to date has been spent on healthcare, and in that figure is measly millions of dollars of supposed PPE, but yet we see nurses on social media indicating they have no PPE. We are talking about VAT refunds that should be part of the operational cost of our government. 2018 VAT refunds we are referring to, ladies and gentlemen. We are not referring to recent refunds. And we are referring to this as though this is part. What happened to the $50 billion budget that we had for 2018, for 2019? Almost close to $60 billion. Where is that money going? But Felicia, as we've indicated, it's monopoly money. We appear very good on paper, and I keep stressing that so the citizens are aware. When you put numbers on paper, we look like a proactive country, don't we? We look like it, but we are not. This month we have, as Felicia indicated, hundreds that we personally know of vendors that have not been paid, citizens that are waiting months in ministries to get back pay, years sometimes, but yet we are still have the audacity to explain to the public that we are going to spend $3.2 billion, of which over 50% of it is in loans, again, for something that will never materialize.
Indeed, and out of this question of the day, which asks, do you think the government's COVID recovery plan is adequate to stimulate the entire economy? That question should be available on your screens now as a poll question. You have up until the last 10 minutes of the program to put in your vote on that question, and I will ask it again. Do you think the government's COVID recovery plan is adequate to stimulate the entire economy? And I mean, as usual, Michelle and I think our answers are more than obvious based on what we have discussed. We have said that so far they're only outlining, or so far they have outlined spending in the public sector to the tune of $3.2 billion, more spending on a sector that has been wrought with a lack of transparency, accountability. To date, there are still answers to be heard on spending of state projects, still answers to be heard on. I mean, we asked that question about a week or two ago on Rohan Sinanan and that land in Kedona that he sold from himself to himself, a piece of bubble that we as Trinbagonians have conveniently and as per our track record, forgotten about, but will never be forgotten about by those who want to know the answers and those who are demanding transparency and accountability in the spending of state funds. During a crisis, it's the perfect opportunity to throw money around to say this caused this and to say that caused that. And it's a period of crisis, people not asking questions as much as they would have asked going up to the next, believing this and knowing that this is a time where it's so easy to take advantage of the public's I don't want to say trust, but take advantage of our vulnerability at this point in time, which we are. We're all vulnerable citizens. As much as we speak out against the government, in reality, we do not have the powers of parliament and cabinet that they have. So a lot of what they're doing happens, and we can only do what we continue to do on this show, which is raise it, raise it, raise it, and ask you citizens as well to raise it for yourselves. Get your neighbors to ask the questions, so don't just take things blindly. Michelle said on paper we're really nice, but we all of these international companies, Cambridge supposed to come back and hear that we are now asking people to pay for their quarantine stay after we boasted of having over 900 beds available. I don't think we would sound so good on paper as we were a couple of weeks ago. So, wrapping up that topic, anything else for you to say on it, Michelle? I mean, I'm pretty much spent on.
No, no, no. It's just a shame. And you know, the reason I wanted to know when I thought of the construction, the emphasis on the construction, I thought of what about the single mothers? What about the persons that cannot compete in, and work in the construction industry? What is the plan for them? We have a lot of single mothers, a lot of single young women, a lot of single educated youths that need jobs, and this is what we're going to give them: construction for projects that are never ending. So, I mean, this is what the public needs to ask. This is just not about, oh, the construction, that's a male dominated field. But what about the women? What about those that have completed their education? What about those that are home and struggling with two kids? They cannot work in the construction field. So that is not the answer to our recovery of Trinidad and Tobago.
Well said. Moving on into another topic, and I just raised it a little bit there. 108, so they're begging to come home, and they're asking, and these are nationals abroad, they're asking the question, what really are the requirements to come home? And I mean, we have covered this topic in depth, and I think from top to bottom, and we continue to cover it because it seems that every time we raise it, Stuart Young unlocks the borders just a little inch and lets in a few more. So you know what? All of the cruise ship workers who promised to come home this week, who Michelle and I found out are not actually coming home this week. For all of those who are stranded abroad, all of the students who are risking eviction from their dormitories if they don't um, I guess pay their new tuition fees or whatever they are not paying or cannot afford to pay right now. For all of those people stranded abroad and are trying to come home, we will continue to raise this issue because, like the group, the 108 us, at least the representative for the 108 us, what exactly are the requirements? They're saying that they're meeting all of the requirements. Last week, Stuart Young reminded the nation of the requirements to come home. You must have been you must be a citizen or a permanent resident of Trinidad and Tobago. And what was the other one? I can't remember. Some other requirements. I could find it. It's in my notes here. But he released two requirements, which many people are saying they qualify. So then what is the issue? What is actually the reason and how are we selecting and choosing who really gets to come home?
Exactly, Felicia. And I mean, I think that group denied. There was a group that was denied over the weekend, right?
Uh,
That group was denied.
108.
So correct. So that group was denied. They are Trinidad nationals. By their documentation, they fit the requirements. So how was this group denied? What it is selective processing, and we indicated that last week, and we indicated that the week before. They are being extremely selective in whom they let and allow back into the country. The crew members that we have been highlighting for weeks, I think that was through the push of you and I, Felicia, hence the reason they are going to be in Trinidad waters by Friday. But from what you're telling me, they're not going to be allowed to debark for another 14 days of quarantine in Trinidad waters. So right now they're in Barbados. They're off the dock in Barbados. The ship is actually going to reposition at the cost of the company Royal Caribbean, not at the cost of the Trinidad and Tobago government. The quarantine, an additional 14-day quarantine in Trinidad waters, is going to be at the cost of Royal Caribbean. I mean, have we no shame, Felicia? Have we no shame? Right? They've already been on the ship 90 days in quarantine. She has indicated since March they have literally been on a COVID-free vessel. So these 300 plus, it is part of the thousand supposedly coming home, but I guess open to interpretation. Coming home, Felicia, means they will be in Trinidad waters. They will not be in Trinidad land.
And that is something that Michelle, I think we should feel absolutely ashamed about. We should feel so ashamed that we cannot even we're telling people you come home, and now we're telling them, you may have to pay for your quarantine stay, by the way. And then we're also telling them you have to stay on the outside for 14 days. You can come home, but not on land. Stay on the ocean for the next 14 days. And guess what? You can't stay on any ocean facility that we have. Stay where you came from. Stay on the RCL facility, which at this point, and this is not me wishing anything bad on anybody, and this is, I mean, we have to be really grateful for the benevolence and the generosity of RCL right now, which seems to be doing more for our own citizens than we are doing for our own citizens. But I mean, if at this point, when those citizens, those 342 people disembark that vessel, and they say, you know what, I don't know if we could handle any more Chinese working for us. If they say that, I could understand, and
Yes.
I know it would have nothing to do with the work etiquette or the skills or the passion of the people of the Trinbagonians who would have worked with them, and everything to do without having to ever deal with the Trinidad and Tobago government again. Because were I RCL right now, I would be thinking, yo, these people, they're different though. Like, I mean, we've been taking care of your citizens for this long, and I understand they came to work with us, understood. But this is a unique time. I'm assuming, Michelle, that the boat captains, the people who are responsible for sailing the vessel, I'm going to assume that they have families and lives too. And they would have liked to be somewhere else, be with their families as well. But can they, when Trinidad and Tobago is absolutely refusing to take the people home? Can they?
Felicia, you hit it on the nose because one of my positions at my previous employer, for those that don't know, I was employed by the cruise lines. One of my positions was I was the managing director for the fleet. So, in other words, I oversaw 20,000 crew members. And Felicia just made a valid point. My previous employer made a hard stand to stop hiring citizens from the Caribbean based on obstacles that we were encountering. So if everyone thinks that is not a possibility of RCL saying, you know what, this relations with Trinidad really is too much a hindrance. And Felicia, to note, it's very important. They're putting another ship for the crew members to transfer on. This is thousands of hundreds of thousands of dollars of logistics we are talking about on behalf of Royal Caribbean. This is not you transfer and it just, this is hundreds of thousands of operating costs. This is being charged to get 300 plus Trinidadian nationals. So don't be surprised, as Felicia has indicated, I have been part of those hard decisions that cruise lines have to make, and they do cut ties that countries that are known to be obstacles in crew member processing and operations. So Felicia, I thought of that this weekend and I thought to myself, those crew members are lucky if they get called back, because when you are scheduling for the upcoming voyages, you do have the option to literally oversight all Trinidad nationals when you are scheduling. So don't expect we are taking livelihoods for granted. We are taking the facility of the Royal Caribbean for granted. We are really overstepping our boundaries, Felicia.
We are, and then of all people dealing with this, we have this cocky Stuart Young who is just a man who seems clearly, or we should be keeping far away from any kind of international relations. I mean, you done mess up the one that we had with the United States. You're already dealing with people that we should not want to be dealing with, called Delcy Rodriguez of Venezuela and her PDVSA crew, and now you're trying to muddy up things with people who working internationally, and not just RCL though, because I know that there are people who are stuck in other places. What about the Barbados nationals? Oh my God, I forgot he almost messed up that relationship as well. I read an article
Yeah.
from the Bayesian newspapers that basically was like, who is this little Stuart Young from Trinidad and Tobago thinks could be insulting our prime minister and our people? And it's true, because he seems to have a very diplomatic relations and international relations is clearly not his strong suit. Yet he seems to be the person always in, around, or in charge of dealing with our foreign people and our foreign relations, and not just dealing with it but messing it up. And for the workers on the RCL right now, I know you all see RCL as more family and more well, you must see them or hold them in higher esteem than you do our Trinidad and Tobago government at this moment. And I cannot blame you, because they have more or less taken care of you, despite the fact that that should have ideally been the responsibility of your government. And when I say I understand the situation and the circumstance, and that this is a different time, and nothing is going to be hard and fast, and I understand that, getting relief to these people, or even reassuring them, sorry, getting relief to these people, and alleviating them of the situation that they're in may have been difficult. But the lack of reassuring these people, the lack of reaching out to people, the fact that they have been demonized, and I'm seeing that word a lot in many of these articles, that these people are who are stuck outside, these cruise ship workers, they're being demonized, they're being treated as virus carriers, many of whom have been tested twice a day. I actually had a call scheduled with the young lady from RTL, a follow-up call. This would now be the third week that we're talking to her. And she told me she may not be able to take the call at 9 a.m. because she's getting her second test, her first test for the day. And I mean,
I
we here, we
mean,
have not even got 2,700 tests yet. With those cruise ship workers alone, we may have administered more tests based on the time period and the amount of time that they've been there floating on external waters, simply waiting to come back.
and Felicia, we have not even tested. I don't. I think we're. I don't think we've counted across 3,000. So when you look at that figure, have we even tested 1% of our population? I mean, a little over
No,
1%, which is absolutely ridiculous. So where did this money go? Where did these billions of dollars that was allotted for a pandemic? Where did it go? And with the crew members, we had 29 returned from the Carnival Fantasy last week. It was released this morning that all of their tests came back negative. So they are now in quarantine. We could have done that weeks ago because the cruise lines, again, are subjected to heavy health US regulation. They are heavily guarded and mandated by the CDC. I've worked there. I know we are inspected every week. We are subjected to laws that you wouldn't even think we're subjected to. But again, now we're saying, Royal Caribbean, you need to handle our citizens because we can't. So now you're just kind of teasing them this week because it's insult to injury. They're now going to be quarantined offshore, Felicia, looking in but they can't come home, but they're technically in Trinidad. Notice the terminology that they use. Technically, they are home. So they are indicating that Seward is saying, oh, I'm bringing home 1,000 people, when in fact 300 plus are really in the waters of Trinidad.
They know how to play smart with nonsense. I have to say that. And I mean, I know for the women and the men and those who just simply want to be reunited with their families, I know a lot of them are going to look at this as it's not everything that they wanted, but it's going to be one step closer. And it is one step closer, but for the amount of time that you have been on here, they say forgive but never forget. In this instance, I hope you don't forgive and I hope you never forget, because
Mhm.
it is unforgivable the way that you have been treated. It's unforgivable the way you have been demonized. And for a government that claims to care, that has people in its name, People's National Movement, a PNM government, for one that claims to be so, to look out for people, these past 2.5 months have proven absolutely not. And I mean, definitely don't forget, because we forget, and that's why we end up going back and making the same decisions over and over. Like I told the guy last week when he said it's not political and he doesn't want to seem like he's doesn't have respect for the prime minister. And I said, and I told him then, I say it now, it is political, because
Yes.
this is your prime minister. This is the man who is in charge of the nation, whether you are in their borders or outside of their borders. And it is when you say you're not sure, you don't want to seem like you don't have respect. Ask yourself, can you respect someone who does not even respect you? And I say respect you because the least, Michelle, that could have been done was the government or some government representative reaching out to these people and having the cool hard facts from these people, hearing it from their own mouths that they have not even received a phone call is enough for me to say that they are not deserving of their respect and thus their votes come election time when they come begging for it. So, all of you people who plan to go walking and campaigning outdoors come election time, hopefully you don't bounce up a RCL cruise ship quicker, because news spreads and news travels. If I were them, I'd be telling everybody definitely, definitely don't vote for this PNM government.
Exactly, Felicia. And the reason why, for the public, the reason why we are emphasizing the cruise ship workers and the offshore workers, because their environment is totally different than being in New York or being in UK. The cruise ship are in a mobile environment that has been trying to facilitate their debarkation for weeks now. So it's not the average, which is why they should have been given priority. Yes, a number of them, and yes, it could have been stagnated. But I believe because of their environment, what they are going through is clearly not good mentally. They have been in an isolated environment for over 90 days. They have a charter jet that is waiting to bring them home and has been ready to bring them home since March. So why haven't we prioritized that? So the difference is, and everyone does matter, but the reason why these critical cases, because the cruise ship is literally staying in Caribbean waters to facilitate the governments of the Caribbean, and Jamaica has cooperated. Barbados has cooperated. St. Vincent has cooperated. Grenada. Why is Trinidad the last on the poll?
Michelle, why are we? Why do we always seem to adopt the worst practices ever? We're talking spending $6 billion on COVID-19 response, and why is it that we're asking people to pay their way to quarantine? I mean, shouldn't it be in the government's interest that we quarantine people and keep the spread of COVID-19 down, keep the risk of bringing imported cases into Trinidad and Tobago. Don, were these people who came back to not last week Thursday, the Thursday before that, were they asked to pay for their quarantine stay? Seeing as they brought the virus into the country, were they? I mean, the
Hmm.
circumstances, situation surrounding their return.
Are you hearing me? And that infamous case that we had regarding that was imported to the country, the family of three, we have yet to hear anything about. So we have to understand as citizens, why was that family given the priority to enter the country? And it was secretly done, and it has been no update since that. So that case, we have to assume, was deliberately brought into the country. So now we have one active case of COVID-19, while we have been pleading for the crew members to come back into the country without any answer, without any follow-up. So this week we did get some feedback, but you have to wonder, why do we continue with the selective choice of who we are bringing into the country, and what really are the requirements to come in? Is it who you know? Because it appears as though in some circumstances, when private jets are landing in this country, that they are who you know, because we hear no details of these private jet landings that are able to come into the country, and then the case simply dies out and there's no information. But yet we have hundreds of thousands of applicants, of citizens that have clearly unique stranded positions, and they are not even getting the courtesy of an answer. They are not getting the courtesy of a follow-up. They are not getting the courtesy of the government even acknowledging them. So how are they supposed to feel? So citizens, when we look at situations, this is why the Progressive Empowerment Party is saying, Felicia, you're back.
I am back, and I was talking to myself with so much emphasis and so much passion, and then I looked down on my phone and realized that I was frozen.
Right.
But I was asking the question, Michelle, why is it we are asking citizens to pay their way for quarantine for quarantine stay? I cannot imagine that in all of the money that we're spending on things that we cannot even afford to let a few people quarantine at a time. And I would like to know, what has the quarantine budget to date been? And when I say quarantine budget, don't tell me about spending $105,000 to rent facilities that should not be going for more than 10, 15, $20,000 a month. Don't tell me that. Tell
Right.
me what is the cost to feed and house these people in facilities that should not be costing that amount of money for the period of time that they stay in there, because I cannot imagine that it would be so exorbitant that it's going to bust the budget, or cause us to run into a budget deficit come next budget reading day, or cause us to be in such a dire straits that we can't do it. And I mean, Michelle,
Felicia, these people, I know you have seen the pictures of the meals that are currently being served to those in quarantine. And they are not filet mignon, they are not shrimp, they are not lobster. They are basic, basic meals of saltfish and bread and corned beef and bread. And so the overhead cost of housing these quarantine individuals is could never be in the millions as they are preluding to. Notice, Felicia, we have not got a figure of quarantine costs. And now, like you said, only thing that we have got, that we are spending 145,000 times three to rent a facility in Sandy Grande that is currently not being used. We saw pictures of that facility where the cockroaches were rejecting the property in
um,
itself, right? But yet we have no idea what the cockroaches were running. So what are we talking about? Why are we spending 150 times three, $500,000 to that one property where no one wants to stay or no one is currently being housed, but they're still under contract to pay them for 3 months?
the cockroaches were only running because they saw the rats going through. It was that bad. It was that bad. And I mean, we're laughing, yeah, but we're laughing. But somebody, some friend, some family member of or some relative to this madness we call the circus we call a government was made or is benefiting from that cockroach slash rat infested facility. And I mean, it's funny now, but it's not funny when you think of what that money could have meant to these people returning home in terms of giving them a comfortable place to stay, giving them a place to spend their quarantine days in comfort. And I don't want to say that the RCL ships are uncomfortable, but it's almost torture to say you can come home, but not exactly. You can wait on the outside for the next 14 days,
Right.
not come inland, and we'll see what is the case after that. And I can only hope and pray for these people. I am going to try the young lady a little bit after the program. Hopefully, somebody in the live said good one, Michelle, but that joke about your cockroaches. I
I
can only
mean,
hope that she's available to take the call. We do have a lot to still discuss on the table this morning. We've only really touched two of the topics, but I mean, two very heavy and hard hitting topics as it pertains to what took place over the weekend, what continues to take place. Michelle, you said it earlier, and I strongly believe so as well, that us raising this issue of the cruise ship workers, of those stranded outside, it is continuing to add pressure on the government with regards to bringing them home. And there are things that we would discuss on this show that I would hear um, inadvertently mentioned through one of the government ministers. And I remember Terence Dial Singh saying that people are purporting that they have 900 beds or 1,000 beds, so why aren't they bringing in people? And it doesn't work like that. They just don't want to overburden the system and all
yeah.
of the reasons. But I mean, common sense should tell you you bring in the people who you know for sure are COVID-19 free, the people who've been tested twice a day for the past 3 months, the people who have not been interacting with people other than those who are already on the ship that they are quarantined with, people who are actually isolated. I think Michelle, she described the fact that they have been isolated in their cabins for
Yeah,
some
and
of the
Felicia, if
time.
you've ever, yeah, the cabins are not what guests are privy to. So there, a guest cabin and a crew cabin, there is quite a difference. Now, again, it is livable, but it is quite small, Felicia. I mean, I've lived on ships, I've managed ships, so it is not the best for long term without getting out. And they have actually gone the additional step on the ship of quarantining them to the confines of the cabin, which I cannot even. If we're talking 3 by 5 feet, we're talking a lot, and some the cabins are extremely small, right? You might look at something; it's probably about 3 by 5. Two, it just has a bed, a desk, the TV's on the desk, and that's it, and your closet, and your bathroom, which is really, really tiny. So this is what they have taken extra measures to confine the crew members to. So they're not even interacting, Felicia, with the other crew members to ensure that there is no potential contamination or spreading of the supposed COVID-19 for the past 3 months. So this is to show you the measures the cruise line has gone through. I was thinking over the weekend, boy, would I have liked to be that team on Royal Caribbean, because I would have given it to the government of Trinidad Tobago, because I have dealt with majority of the immigration and custom officials and high officials in the Caribbean on behalf of the cruise lines. I would have laid into this government what an embarrassment this continues to be on behalf of the Trinidad crew members. And I would have let Stuart Young really have a piece of my mind had I been
Rip,
managing those crews getting home.
Michelle Davis would have dug her teeth young, and she wasn't going to let go until you gave her some definite answer as to her return
Yes.
home and the return home of her crew members. It is 9:02 a.m. We are due for a very short break. Please stay with us because when we come back, we are opening the phone lines for your calls. We'll be back.
Antel is Trinidad's most reliable and technically experienced ICT company, providers of quality structured cabling, Cat6 data fiber and power cables. We also stock cabling infrastructure basket-type cable trays for server rooms and data centers. Antel also installs and maintains video security systems including cameras, alarms and electronic entrance locks for businesses and residential properties. Call Antel 674-1406 or 783-9250.
Trinidad and Tobago is in a crisis. For far too long, our people have been abused and silenced by our politicians and the business elite.
Just look around you. People are losing their jobs. Crime is at an all-time high. Our justice, education, and health systems have failed.
We all know the truth behind all that is wrong in our country. Corruption is destroying us. Billions of our dollars are being looted by a small group of business people that use our politicians to divide and distract us,
so they can take what they want, leaving us with no hope for a better country.
All of this is because we've never had leaders who seek the interests of the citizenry as their first priority.
I am here because I'm not taking it anymore.
I am here because I am not taking it anymore.
I am fed up of politics as it is in Trinidad and Tobago.
It is time we elect leaders with the backbone and the love of our people to go after the corrupt, evil elements in our country, hell-bent on serving their own pockets while we suffer.
And it is time that we as a nation take a collective stand against wrongdoing.
So we are making a plea to the nation to rally behind us.
Because our freedom of speech is being threatened by those who don't want us speaking out on these issues.
A man that I greatly respect is one of those leaders fighting for a better country. His name is Philip Edward Alexander, and he has bravely challenged the people and institutions that are destroying our nation.
To date, he has been threatened with 5 lawsuits for having the courage to ask state agency UDCOT on why the renovations of the President's house cost $89 million.
When experts in the field have estimated that that job should have never crossed 20 million.
Where did the rest of our money go?
We refuse to stand by and allow any agency to use our courts to try and silence and punish Philip or any other citizen of our country for trying to seek the truth.
If you're fed up of corruption and want to be a part of real change, support Philip and the Progressive Empowerment Party in this fight.
This fight is not for him or us to bear alone.
It is a fight for you, our loved ones, and our friends.
It is a fight for the future of our country.
You can help by making a contribution to Philip's legal fees and help him and PEP expose the truth and shine light over the darkness of corruption. Go to our website at peptt.com, click on donate and see all the ways you can pitch in.
There is hope. Our country can be saved, but we all need to stand together. My name is Felicia Holder, Chairman of the Progressive Empowerment Party, and I support Philip Edward Alexander and the PEP.
I support Philip Edward Alexander and the PEP.
I support Philip Edward Alexander and the PEP.
I support.
I support.
I support.
I support.
I support.
I support.
I support. I support.
I support.
I support.
I support.
I support Philip Edward Alexander and the PEP.
And we are back, and it is that time where we recognize some birthdays. And this morning, and I hope he's watching because he should be watching because he is actually studying to be, he's Satish Ramsran's understudy for this program. He's actually being currently trained to take over as a producer for the Pep Talks and a Morning Show. I would like to wish a very special very warm happy birthday to none other than Christian De Leon, PEP member, PEP advocate, PEP stalwart, PEP diehard, PEP everything. Once we have something that is PEP, Christian is there. I think his love for the party runs so deep, and we all appreciate him so much. I know you see him on Facebook, um, shouting out PP and shouting out people and their birthday today. I am very happy to do the same for him. And your birthday post will soon follow. Don't worry. As soon as the show is done, I will post my ode to you, Christian. Thank you very much for all that you do for the Progressive Empowerment Party. And I truly wish you a wonderful day today. Happy birthday. Michelle, I'm not hearing you. I don't know if you're on mute.
Oh, sorry. Happy birthday, Christian.
Nice. So, it's time to talk your talk. It's 769-4590 if you would like to call in and voice your opinion, talk about anything that we would have been discussing today. We did touch on a couple things, and we would love to hear from you. Actually, call-in segments are some of my best. Well, I like those moments the best because I get to interact with and hear from you guys what you're thinking. Don't forget, we have a poll running that asks the question: are you satisfied with what the government has? Are you satisfied with what the government has put in place for the COVID-19 response to date? And please, that poll is running. Give us your feedback on it, because we would love to hear from you. While we wait for the people to not be so shy and call in, I do want to move into another topic which addresses the education system. Now, this is one that I would say has gotten more or less a free pass from the party. We haven't gone into it as much as we probably should have, but I think it was too obvious to need stating that the way our current IT infrastructure, the way our education system already left people behind, and the way our approach to education, which is still rooted in prehistoric and dinosaur ways of learning, I think it's too obvious to need stating that during this COVID time, we were going to suffer, or rather, let me not say we, our children were going to suffer more than they ordinarily would have had we not had this COVID-19 pandemic. And we're basically hearing that the online learning has been a failure. What was previously told or reported to be 70,000 children without internet access, which I thought was an astronomical figure, considering the numbers of children we have in school and in primary and secondary school. But we're now hearing it's 90,000 students, and I mean, I still can't even trust that number, because there's no real way to give consensus. But 90,000 of our students are being left behind because they have no access to internet to learn during this COVID-19 period. Michelle.
Felicia, you know, when I think when we saw that article, I was absolutely infuriated. I was embarrassed for the government of Trinidad and Tobago, because we had heard from this administration how many years ago that they were going to give free internet to all. I do believe that figure is a bit high. I believe they are using it as an excuse. And the reason I say that, because I live at the end of Trinidad. I mean, if you take one more step, you're in Venezuela. And we have great internet access down here. And majority of the village has internet access. So the reason I am questioning that, I think they're using that as a cover up to really cover up the fact that they themselves were not ready for the online initiative. You are hearing stories of teachers that basically have not even come out to work during this COVID. And when I mean come out to work, facilitated in the online program. So I don't think, yes, I agree there are households that may have some issues with internet, but Trinidad is known as a country, per Google, from a world standard, we are a very high internet usage country. So it's not that hotspots couldn't have been facilitated. It's not that we could have allocated phone numbers per student where data plans could have been executed because we have all these billions of dollars to work with. We could have done that through Digicel, through B Mobile, where the government facilitated prepaid unlimited Digicel access or internet access, sorry. But I think we're using that as a cover. I don't think we were ready, Felicia, because we look at governments such as Barbados, Jamaica, again, our counterparts that have executed this online learning with absolute flawlessness. So again, I think we're looking for excuses. I don't think internet is the problem here. I believe we were not ready to take the step into that mode of learning. We have not been ready. We are not proactive, as we have always indicated. We are not proactive from a educational standpoint. We continue to educate at very archaic levels. I mean, I'll just give you the audience an example. I lecture in a major university, and we literally went from online classes in under a week. So it just goes to show you that the facility can be accommodated, but I don't think the teachers, I don't think the ministry, Felicia, was ready for it. I really do not think we should put all the blame on the access of internet, because we could have easily worked around that by engaging the telecommunications companies.
Well, I have to agree with you there, Michelle. We have the fact that teachers were not told. Apparently, it was optional whether they worked or not, which I felt was madness to say, because you can't expect that the children, or you can't expect that online learning, or we kick into online learning mode, yet you have no teachers to facilitate follow-up, to facilitate questions, to give homework, because if they chose to come to work or log on to work, they could. Or if they chose not to and spend their days during COVID-19 watching Bold and Beautiful and catching up on Love and Hip Hop, they could have done so. And I mean, I know a lot of teachers who very much want to be involved, and I also know some teachers who they saw this as a vacation, and that's the reality of the situation. Again, no accountability, no way to tell the teachers, you know what, as much as we say we are going to pay you for these 3 months that you are home, or these 4 or 5 months that the students are not going to physically be in school, we expect that you at least implement 5 or 6 lesson plans a week, that you are involved in constant feedback with the children, that you are assessing where they are, so that when we do reopen in September, we have an idea of where these children are. As it is right now, school is going to reopen in September, and we are going to have no idea, at least from a students, how, and many of them are going to have to start, I'm going to say start all over, but literally start all over. I will never forget talking to a lady in my community. Her daughter is going to a secondary school, not a prestige secondary school, but I guess what you'd call an average secondary school. And for the first couple weeks, she was not doing anything. I mean, her mom would give her lessons to learn at home, etc. But the teacher did not have her number, so she wasn't getting the lessons plan via WhatsApp, which apparently a couple, okay, we're getting a call now. Let's take this call. Hello, good morning. You're live on Pep Talks in the morning.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
I'm looking at the education system in terms of the youth. How is what they are learning being implemented in their everyday life, or seen? Are they seeing the value of what they are learning as opposed to how the community functions, how we function as a country? Because it has to have some sort of connectivity, whereas I am learning something, I could put it into practice when I come out. So we're watching at the educational system as just something for me to get an education so I can get a job. It doesn't have any connectivity with our society. You understand? What I'm looking at, for example, before, if you had a degree, an online degree, it was debunked. You understand? People will say, oh, that degree, ain't good. It's online, it's on this and that. But now we see everything that is being done is being done online. So how do you move from one paradigm to the next, and it's acceptable when it wasn't acceptable before? I'll listen to your comments.
Sure,
I would like to comment on that, because you have, first of all, in terms of the educational system in Trinidad, and having been exposed to an international educational system, we are so outdated in so many ways in terms of how we are thinking. I've mentioned this before. Many of the students in Trinidad and Tobago literally cram for exams, and it's by memorization for that exam. But what happens is, when they come out to reality and they're in a new job, they literally, the information is not applied because they have totally forgot it. You have to, and that is one thing I want to emphasize, because I have seen it. And the reason why systems don't work in place, because our educational system is based a lot on memorization and this hard studying, whereas we don't apply it to everyday scenarios, as the caller indicated. Having been educated in the US, I can still remember classes from 8th grade, which is 13 years old, where I was taught to apply what we were learning. I could still hear the lessons now. But the reason why our systems fail is because of our education system. When these adults come into, these working young adults come into the system, they really cannot apply what they have learned because it's almost forgotten. The reason why the current education system is failing on the online management, right now I am doing a master's degree online. I was in class the entire Saturday. I do projects, we do group assignments. It is working flawlessly. It is a UK, United Kingdom university, hence the reason, the proactiveness, and it literally was facilitated in under a week. We went to online classes. There's nothing hard or difficult about it. I myself teach online classes every week. It has been very well received, but the difference is your attitude towards it as a nation. And we know this ministry is very archaic in thinking. They have not, we took away the laptops. That alone should tell us what we are looking for, right, Felicia? If you're going to take away the key tool that is being used worldwide, this majority of systems in place worldwide are using laptops as their mode and their tool, and yet we took it away. So that alone tells you our position on the education and the educational system that is being delivered in Trinidad and Tobago.
Indeed, and when the progressive abolishing SE, making schools, 10-year schools, and giving children a GPA model and teaching them lessons that are based on them applying critical thinking rather than learning things by rote. It's exactly everything Michelle is saying, because Scandinavian models of education have proven that when you involve children, there's a saying, tell me and I forget, teach me and I learn. No, how does it go, boy? Tell me and I forget, teach me and I remember, involve me and I learn. And that is
So
exactly
true.
how we want our children to be. When you teach a child something, they might remember it. Can they apply it? Not necessarily. When you involve them in the process of learning, it is then that they can grasp and tangibly and through memory, not memory, but through involving all of their senses, that is when they are actively involved in the learning process. And that is something that we have denied our children of. And I mean, they are the prestige schools that they call them that try to involve these kind of models, but the average level of education here in Trinidad and Tobago is based on rote, and it's based on regurgitation, and it's based on telling you what you should learn, which is why us now moving into this online way of learning is so difficult for some people. Us now moving this way is obviously it's designed to fail because we have a system that was set up that was never meant or meant to encourage children to learn in different ways apart from them staring at a blackboard or a whiteboard in class and writing down what Miss told them to learn. And Michelle, earlier we were talking about the 90,000 students, and I agree with you when you say that we should not blame the entire online education on that factor. But I still do want to point out the fact that we do have children coming from underprivileged families, and like I keep saying, right here in my community, I can tell you for a fact that there are children who are not accessing online learning simply because of their living situations and their living conditions. And I can tell you for a fact that even if they were to access that online education, chances are, were they to turn to their parents for help, they would be just better off not learning at all, because many of these parents come from a cycle of not having been educated themselves, because we know how the PNM likes to keep a percentage of their population dumbed down, and they want to make sure that we have they know just enough to be laborers and consumers, sorry. And this is me, and of course in no way looking down on anybody, but this is me pointing out the fact that I know for a fact that we have a system designed to let a percentage rise and go forward and become something in life, and then we have a percentage that we keep struggling, keep constantly trying to make ends meet, having to work 2 and 3 jobs, twirling batons and frying fries and that's what we do. And for this population who has not received prestige and first word education like some of us who can afford to pay to send our children to receive, they in turn cannot now help their own children, and then the cycle continues. And
exactly, Felicia.
As much as we have to continue.
Yeah, you mentioned it, that with regards to, and you have always indicated, PEP has always indicated, until we address the societal problems plaguing our nation, this cycle of poverty, this cycle of dependency in terms of the government, and in cycle of just from generation to generation, we are not going to rise as a country. These are deep issues, and mostly in stronghold constituencies, where they are not seeing any improvement in their life. They are not seeing any improvement from generation to generation. They continue to almost fail, and they are deliberately failing because of the way the system is set up, the way the government has not governed properly. Philip always indicates, why are the strongholds of both parties, the strongholds are in the poverty-driven areas of both parties. Both, not only the current administration, the other administration too. You go to their strongholds, and it is the least productive environments in Trinidad. They're the basic necessities. So we have to understand that until we address everything from a holistic standpoint and understand that it's a domino effect, you can't fix one and not another. I have returned to Trinidad, and in the past 13 years, for those of you living outside, you would not understand the amount of illiteracy our country is facing. It is saddening. We have adults that are functionally illiterate, that have literally supposedly gone to school. And I remember learning to read by 6. So I cannot understand how an adult can say they went to school and they still are functionally illiterate, because I learned to read from 6, 7, and it continues, of course, in your verbiage. But you know how to read from 6, don't you? You do. You know how to sound out words. So where is our system failing? We have to start to ask ourselves, is our system failing from that point? Because we have a population that is dying in illiteracy. We have people that are in high positions that cannot read and write properly.
Indeed, and then we have the same children, and now are in a position where they can't, not to mention our special needs children, Michelle, who in particular are really suffering during this time. And I say suffering in the context of not receiving the kind of education that they should have or should be able to receive during this time. Let me take this call. Hello, good morning. You are live on Pep Talks in the morning.
I had a call back because you know why this asked me, why are you listening to the Pep Talk in the morning? I listen to Pep Talk in the morning because they have nothing to defend. You understand? When the other parties come up, they are in a defensive mode right through, trying to look good. So I like the exploratory vision, the mode that you all are pushing, because then now I get a better view of my society, a better view, as we say, the various issues, because you all have nothing to defend. You understand? And I love that. I love that. And the thing about it is, a president described this country as a S-hole, and my prime minister after that decided to put on a S-kicker and talking about it. So we have a S-hole country with a prime minister with a S-kicker.
Thank you for that, caller. I just missed another call while I was on the line. Please feel free to call me back, 769-4590. It is the Talk Your Talk segment, and we definitely would love to hear from you. I am now blocked from sharing the live video, and I usually get to share it in all of my groups. So please be my fingers today, be my share button today, and just click share on the live as we build up the audience and we continue the wonderful discussion that we are having today. And I was mentioning before we took that call, Michelle, our special needs children, our autistic children who are really not doing very well in terms of the kind of education that they're receiving. And I mean, they were already at a disadvantage in terms of learning. And now, let me take this call. Hello, good morning. You're live on Pep Talks in the morning.
Hi, morning.
Morning.
Good to hear you all. I am calling from South San Fernando.
From San Fernando, Michelle, your hometown.
Yes. I frequently listen and share some of my ideas regarding the whole issue of development of the country and so on. And I see you mentioned this morning 3 key words which draws my mind because I am involved in it, and it's holistic education and poverty. Now, those are broad terms that could apply. Holistic solutions could be applied to both education and poverty. And when I was a consultant in the Bahamas, there was a project that we worked on linking education with poverty, eradication of poverty. And the whole issue of poverty, which I've done a lot of studies on, is that you have to define poverty and have it as a benchmark. I know you have your community models and so on, your community models, but if you, let's take San Fernando West, you say there is poverty, you need statistics and so on, or figures which you can say, okay, there's 25,000 people in San Fernando West. What percentage of the people are poor? So I mean, it's good to say that we have these figures and these broad areas and broad parameters. But until you put them in context within a given situation and break them down into smaller particles where you can actually solve them. So I'll stick on maybe although I'm an educator, I like the whole concept of eradication poverty. I've written several articles that are not so on. But how do we link them? For example, like what we did in Bahamas is that let's take for agriculture, for example, you teach the mathematics, the science, the technology, and the communication studies within the parameters of agriculture. So you have your people, the students who like to do agriculture, and you start to teach them the maths and so on related to that. That way they will learn a lot more, and then the studies show, the research has shown that. Now, but whatever model you adopt, it has to be something that will be standardized for the system. And the whole issue of certification, because I personally believe that Trinidad and Tobago doesn't have an education system. What it has is a certification system that certifies you from one level of incompetency to a higher level of incompetency. So most of the people, even for example, coming out of the universities, we have to go back into training. For engineers, for example, petroleum engineer. When he goes onto Amoco field, we have to retrain, because there's this disconnect between education, what is going on in the institutions, and what is actually taking place and what is required within the industry. And the same thing with the school system. You give these people a course of study, a curriculum that is relevant to the needs of the society and so on. So a person coming out with 5 O-levels to get a job in the public service has no knowledge of how to work in teams, how to solve problems, how to deliver a program of that is entrusted to him. And this is what perhaps your other director is saying there on the show, that you have people who are still mismatched into the system, and we call it bureaucracy. Now I will give you a specific example of how it works. You know that there are more people who died not receiving their gratuity payment. When they finish work, they work 10, 40 years in the service, and they have not received their gratuity payment more than the amount of people who died for COVID. So you have 80 people died for COVID, we have 100 people. We have an instance where there are people who are in the school system right now and dealing with it. And there are hundreds of the top educators in this country, curriculum officers, school supervisors, principals, who have not received their gratuity payment for a program since 2016. And every time we fall into the system, it is being worked on. Nobody knows how many people they have completed. Nobody knows what is the status of anything. And even from the top right now, they're working on it 4 years, and you cannot deal with 105. So until you get into the actual system and get some accountability of what people are doing inside the system, it doesn't matter what to implement. In which your people go to, if you go in there and the people are not working, you have no response to what they're doing on a weekly or daily basis, you will end up with bureaucracy. Yes? So until we build the education system into the realm of the whole process of development and eradication poverty, it must have some on what is the purpose of the education. And this whole idea about giving people a piece of paper in their hand and hold their legs as some type of work, which you will not get unless you have some contract inside it. And this is what we have because if you bought any of the websites, you cannot find jobs available. You cannot just to development. When you actually get to the interview, it takes 6 months to form the key interview. When you get the interview, you do not know where when it's time for the interview, you just have come in the interview first, okay? You just simply somebody is appointed. So the whole.
I was just gonna say that you were breaking up a little bit, and we did have to. I did miss one or two calls while I was on with you. If you would have just mind moving closer. No. I'm not running you. I'm just asking if you could move closer to your Wi-Fi router so we could hear you a little bit better. So that way I would have to keep repeating.
Okay. Are you hearing me a little better now?
I'm hearing you a lot better.
Oh, sorry about that. Yes. Well, I came back to Trinidad from England after a long session with the scholarship group there, and we developed certain solutions. And my institute is about providing holistic solutions. And you mentioned two areas which we have on our system, which is education and poverty. And this is why I called in again to provide some of the perhaps solutions which you could look at. Not necessarily have to be implemented, but to look at alternative approaches to doing it. But to me, the main purpose of anything is what is important. So and the actual, I know you have heavy on data with RNP in terms of getting how many, you're selling 41 constituencies. If we know where these boundaries are, we have to know where they are because they move two boundaries, they move two polling stations, big polling stations from what you call this place there, San Fernando East, which is every CNN area, and they put into San Fernando West.
And Port of Spain North and South West was one of the boundaries that they moved as well. Yes, they did move, and I'm actually supposed to go into the EBC this week to get their new maps, which they claim that they did not have yet because of COVID-19. We shall see. I will continue to pound them on that, and that is a very valid point, and especially with the impending general election, the moving of boundaries and the shifting, always the shifting, and I never understand why. I mean, I know why, because it's all about making sure you can properly pass areas where your support is either lowest or highest, to change or influence those numbers. But this is a general election that I believe people, they may be in for a shock, the shock of a lifetime when they realize that people want nothing to do with either of them. Caller, I do have to at this point though, because we're on the line about 10 minutes now. Open the line for some other callers, right?
Yeah, okay, my dear.
But thank you so much for your contribution. I mean, Michelle, he raised the point of education and poverty, and I wanted to raise the point of poverty and crime because I see Kamala Persad-Bissessar has found her voice, and everything that she was unable to do to address crime between 2010 and 2015, she has suddenly found and materialized in the establishment of a Ministry of Home Affairs. And I'm like, lady, putting fancy names on things and adding one or two pep policy and idea, which contrary to not popular, because this is not popular opinion, contrary to new propaganda trying to be purported out there, these ideas were not out in the public before. And guess what? Even if there were, none of these past governments, present or past, ever thought to do it. So please don't take PEP ideas, repackage it, and take it to the UNC or the PNM and think that you can purport them as your own. These are PEP signed, sealed stamps, and we have the policy and the homework and the mathematical formula to show you how we arrived at it. So sorry, but not sorry. Anyway, so I mean, Kamala is trying to purport her new crime plan, and this is, I guess she's hoping this will take her in to general election. And this woman, I mean, I have to give her E for effort for trying, because ever so often she tries to I guess undo the stain of what her administration did between 2010 and 2015, and try to make us forget the live sports and the Anil Ramlogans and the Anand Ramlogans and Anil I don't even care to know, and try to make us forget all of the stains that were on her government, and not just her government, but from her lack of leadership. And that leadership point, before I get into crime and poverty, which is the key missing area in her entire crime plan. So I want to talk about leadership a little bit because one of the reasons people ask me, how could you support Philip Alexander when he has never had a track record in government? And I say this, I said two things. I say two things. One, we have a whole lot of degrees, more degrees than a thermometer in Parliament right now. Geologists, the astro, whatever, and they still messing up the country. Why not give a man who actually sounds like he knows what he's talking about before going in? Why not give him the opportunity? And two, I tell anybody, if Philip Edward Alexander could run this country, run Parliament, and run his cabinet the way he runs the Progressive Empowerment Party, I will find a way to vote for him 2 times because as his chairman, as a person that he disseminates information to and gives instructions to and involves in his decision-making process, the man is brilliant when it comes to his leadership. And the only problem that I see in any of this is the people themselves. And when I say the people who don't come in, who come in not for genuine purposes, people who come in and say they want a better country, but then what they were in fact looking for was an opportunity to parachute themselves into government and under whichever umbrella, clearly not the PEP umbrella, because if you believe in the PEP mantra of staying away from the pocket financiers and doing away with corruption and enacting proper procurement legislation and all of the things that we stand for, rebuilding the family, rebuilding the community, if you really believe in those things, you wouldn't find yourself in a UNC or PNM camp tomorrow when you were in the PEP camp today. So like I said, the only problem that I see are people with their own self-serving agendas who are finding or using the Progressive Empowerment Party to further their own agenda. But other than that, for the genuine people who are in the Progressive Empowerment Party for their real reasons, people who are really focused on a better country, who want to do things the right way, who don't mind selling 1,000 barbecue tickets because we rather pay for our own candidate registration fee than to go to a 1% financier of any of those 2 political parties just to say we found ourselves in government. Those kind of people, those are the ones who I would love to form a government with. And those kind of people, I am happy to say the majority of which make up the Progressive Empowerment Party, the Michelle Davis, the Satish Ramsaran, the Philip Alexander, the Limma McLeod Wilkinson, the Shari Wilson, all of the members of this party executive and leadership, Anthony Sinanan from abroad, who I know should PEP get into government tomorrow, he coming back to serve in some capacity. Denise Zave, this woman of strength and courage, a woman who I look up to so highly, leader of our PEP international team based in the United States. I hope I have not frozen. Am I frozen?
No.
Gosh, I hope I'm not frozen. But
no.
All of these people, good people who are really here for real reasons, I have to applaud you, and I have to say that you are the people that make what I do worth it. You make what I do worth it. But back to Kamla Prasad versus Michelle, because I went a little off topic there. And her Ministry of Home Affairs plan, I read everything in her plan, which I said and will continue to say seems like a repackaged version of what the Progressive Empowerment Party is trying to do, with one key missing ingredient: dealing with poverty. And our crime plan, our social development budget is going to be the biggest budget in our tenure in government, because we know for a fact that, just like that caller said, education is and not being educated has as a root core problem poverty. Same thing with crime. Crime has at its root, at its core, poverty. And she has said nothing to address poverty and alleviating poverty in our communities. She has said nothing about providing hope and opportunity. And, I'm saying this a lot, so she could probably take it and try to repackage it. But again, political will is what differentiates the PP from any other party, Michelle. It's not that the other 2 parties never had good ideas, but if they actually had the political will to implement them, I think we would have been in a different place. But the truth is that is not the way politics in this country has been set up, and seeing the dirty politics being played by these two political parties right now, the mudslinging and the lies and the just the dirty games that they're playing, it already is testament to the fact that nothing is going to change should either of them ever grace the halls of Parliament. And I was talking to Missy, I'm giving you a chance now, Misha, but I was talking to Anne-Marie Dula. I call her my political advisor, and I was talking to her about just a lot that was on my mind. And she was saying, Felicia, you need to prepare yourself. And she's always told me this, and every time I feel like I'm prepared, she tells me again that I need to find a new way to prepare myself mentally for the game of politics as it is in Trinidad, that until a PEP, a Progressive Empowerment Party government, gets into office to clean up, to undo and redo the mess that is politics and parliament and governance in Trinidad and Tobago, that I'm going to have to grind my teeth and deal with it until we get there. But Michelle, if there's a reason to grind my teeth and bear with it, that reason is the hope of change and the hope of something different should the PEP get into government. Your turn. I will talk.
No. Well said, Felicia. I thoroughly agree with you. You're reading my thoughts as you're speaking. That's exactly what I'm thinking. We have to. The caller said it before. Notice when we are speaking, it's not about bacchanal. It's about solutions. We're actually giving solutions on this show. As we speak and address the topics, it's not about who did this. We look at the mudslinging that takes place in Trinidad politics, and it is shameful from a global standpoint. I look at some of the highlights and the topics and what is being highlighted, and it has nothing to do with the average citizen. It is these two greedy parties that continue to mudsling for power and for their own benefit. As Felicia indicated, if you had the political will, we would be the miniature Saudi Arabia of the Caribbean. We were already known as my St. Vincent friend when I met him 20 years ago. He said, "Oh, you're from the little America of the Caribbean," and I laughed. I said, "Oh, is that how you refer to Trinidad?" He says, "That's how Grenadians refer to Trinidad." That was when I met him 20 years ago. But we are dealing with two parties that their greed has overtaken their desire to fix the deficiencies in this country. I mean, Philip did a video yesterday, and I cannot get more angry every time I hear the topic of water, Felicia, because we are talking a basic necessity of what other countries have done, what Antigua is excelling at desalination, at water management. And here in Trinidad, we cannot seem to get the topic of water, a basic necessity for our citizens. So when you start to look at your choices and look at your political choices, look at the party that's going to give you solutions. Philip Edward Alexander and the executive team and the senior team have come up with first world solutions that work. We are not pulling this from the top of our head. We are not pulling this arbitrarily we are pulling it from data. We are pulling it from New Zealand. We are pulling it from Norway. We are pulling it from countries that have excelled in people management and governance. Today, New Zealand has announced they are COVID-free and opening back their country. This woman that has been in power, less than a year or a year, if that, I think it's a year. It seems so short. What she has encountered and has been able to do for the citizens of New Zealand, I mean, it is on another level. So citizens start to look. We are not about backing up politics. We have never come on this show once and who did this but what the other two parties are doing, they are continuing to distract you with the bacchanal and continuing to distract you from the issues that affect your everyday life. Why am I fighting? Because guess why? I came here to retire and I don't want crime on the streets, or else I will have to take up myself and leave. I don't want a high cost of living because I won't be able to afford it on a retirement budget. Hence the reason, Felicia and I, we fight for these issues because it impacts all of us. So citizens, wake up. It's time to wake up to issues, not old talk. And what the UNC is proposing is a PEP-based policy, and it just has a different title.
Indeed. And still, like I said, missing a key and crucial element, which is dealing with the issue. I'm not going to take your call at this moment because we are about to wrap up. Sorry about that, but please feel free to call back on the program tomorrow. What we're dealing with right now in terms of what the UNC is trying to purport and trying to sell as their idea, like I said, it's missing a key ingredient, and that is the poverty aspect of it. And crime, the driver behind crime is poverty right now. At the moment, a lot of people are turning to crime because they see it as a quick and easy way to make money. But I don't think I actually have had conversations with the so-called bad boys in my community, and what they tell you is, if we had another opportunity, one of them had a small construction business. He said, if I could have get work in my community, I wouldn't be on the streets here selling. But that's his reality. The reality is that any works to be done in his community, some mega contractor come in to do it. So the people, what is left for them in the communities? What is left for the boys and the young children growing up, seeing a community where opportunities are dwindling, but seeing a life where criminality, it pays, both white collar and dark color crime is paying exorbitant amounts of money. Obviously, they're going to fall suit and they're going to fall prey to the crime and the poverty trap that keeps us going. And you're looking, let's be real, you're looking outside, you're seeing what others have, what people with money and what life with money looks like, and you're seeing a system where you have to either fight up really hard. And this is something that I tell to anybody who makes it and manages to make something out of themselves, even though they came from a background that did not really give them much opportunity. But these people, I tell them, I say, you can't judge the others based on what you were able to overcome. Your situation, your circumstance, I applaud you. I applaud everybody. I think I applaud myself. I grew up in a community where I could have gone either way. I could have been somebody on the street, on the block selling linemen, or I could have did what I did, which is fight up and get a good education and make something of myself. But what about those who don't? And what about those who can't? And what about those who have obstacles along the way? You shouldn't judge them because you were able to, or somebody who was able to. The reality is, and many people are victims of their own circumstances, and until you can put yourself in their shoes and walk the life that they walk, you can't say that you're wrong for doing this or you're wrong for making that choice. The reality is, if we provide a country with enough hope and opportunity for everybody, nobody would want to choose a life of crime. Nobody wants to live their life with their head always looking over their shoulders or constantly worrying about their families being attacked in a retaliation drive-by shooting. Nobody wants to actually live like that, but it has become the reality. It is now part of the culture of people in broken communities who come from broken homes, who come from broken cultures, where crime is what it is, and that is the reality of this country.
Exactly. And I wanted to give an example earlier with the caller from San Fernando. As you know, I have walked San Fernando from top to bottom. And you have the San Fernando West constituency that you go into Gulfview and you see million-dollar homes. And then at the end of the San Fernando West constituency, you have the train, where in the train I have walked with citizens there that accepted the Progressive Empowerment Party. They could not get a light pole, Felicia. They could not get a light pole installed. They were told by the government that they had to pay $6,000. And if you are familiar with that area, it is extremely poverty stricken. So how were those, the mother that I spoke to, she said, Michelle, how am I supposed to educate my children when they cannot even read at night? How am I supposed to cook? How am I supposed to feed my children? How am I supposed? So the basic necessities are not even being addressed. A light pole, the MP failed to provide that community with, Felicia. So when we talk about at the Progressive Empowerment Party and we talk about solutions, we have to start with poverty in our country. We have to start addressing these deficiencies in these communities that are dominoing on all of us. If you cannot eat, you will fight for eat. You will kill to eat. It is a fact in any country. So until you have lived what these citizens are undergoing, basic necessities of water, basic necessities of light, they cannot get in these areas. We cannot judge as a society. We have to, as one, understand the only way to correct this country is a holistic approach, and from the top, we need to deal with poverty in our country.
Very well said, Michelle. And like any other program that usually feels so effortless, we have arrived at the end of today's segment. Anything you'd like to say in closing before we read out our poll results?
No, just citizens, we thank you. We thank you for joining us in the morning, and we thank you for asking the relevant questions. We look forward to seeing you on the ground. We will be back in San Fernando. We will be back in Diego Martin this week. We will be back in the East. So continue to reach out to us. Continue to join us in our efforts to save this country. We all are on a mission of country and not individual. Thank you.
Well said. And our poll question was, do you think the government's COVID recovery plan is adequate to stimulate the entire economy? 15% of you said yes, while 85% of you said no. And this is in relation to the $3.2 billion projected to spend on well over 500 public, state construction exercises. So we are here at the end of the program. Again, like Michelle said, thank you so much for joining us. I really look forward to doing these shows, having this interaction with you. Thank you for all of the calls that we got today. If you did not get a chance to talk today, please call in tomorrow. We definitely would love to hear from you. I'm saying again, happy birthday to you, Christian De Leon. I really and truly wish you a very special day today. We will be back tomorrow for another episode of Pep Talks in the Morning. But until then, let's remember to stay together by staying apart. Bye-bye.